The passionate leader. Because leadership without passion is just a title.
Meeting. We got a collapse in the garage. Get the squad back equipment in here. We got an IV gone to a firefighter.
It's that island urgent. Transmit a second aloft.
Ask yourself this. You're towed out to an emergency on the train tracks and you feel that gut wrench in your belly, knowing that this is going to be a little deeper than it probably should be. For George Redner, this isn't just a Netflix documentary. This was his hell. In part 2 of our conversation with George Redner, we discuss the suicide of his son, a following suicide of another son, how he rose through the depths of hell to become one of the strongest individuals that I've ever known. Ladies and gentlemen, this is part 2 of our conversation with George Redner. If you have not listened to part 1 and learned who George Redner is, please go back, find episode 1 on your favorite Spotify, Apple, or podcasting platform to listen to that part 1. I do have to also tell you, viewer discretion is advised. We talk very deeply and very detailed about some of the things that George had to live through, things that he saw, and things that he witnessed. This is not for the faint of heart, but it is essential to understand the stress and the stuff that we see in the fire service. If you do listen with little ones in the area, I caution you that this is going to be a little detailed and it might not be necessarily good for them to hear. It might be a better opportunity to listen when you're on your own. Without further ado, let's get back to our conversation, part 2 with George Redner, here on The Passionate Leader. So you have experienced an unimaginable personal loss. How did that moment shift your perspective on mental health in the fire service? So I mean, maybe before we do that, if you want, I'll let you tell the story so the listeners can get a full grasp of the absolute unfathomable amount of loss that you have gone through throughout your career and your life, and really kind of helped shape the reason I really wanted to get you on the show to talk today.
Sure. So during my career, I belonged to another department, and this was a company called Ben Salem Fire Department, and we had two firefighter fatalities on the line duty desk or line of duty desk, and one was my captain who fell from a 75-foot aerial ladder, and I was unfortunately operating the turntable at night, but somebody had hooked up a 50-foot length of the supply line to the ladder pipe before the ladder was extended and in position. And the captain instructed me to extend the ladder, and I was watching overhead lines and didn't even know that this firefighter had hooked the hose up to the discharge. The second line of duty death in the same department happened 3 years later. That was a captain of ours, Milt, and we had to work an apartment fire in my complex, and he was captain and I was in the back seat with him in the jump seat, and he said to me, "Hey, look," he says, "I'll take the HUMAT valve and hook it to the hydrant. You stay on here and go in and fight the fire." I said, "Okay." He got out of the truck, and when he got out of the truck, he was hit by a car and driven 500 feet down the street. That's when it all really kind of started. Leading up till August 1st, 2015, my son George was 27 years old. He was a paid firefighter for Six Flags Great Adventure. He also ran with 2 rescue squads and volunteered at a volunteer fire department. And he applied for the Philadelphia Fire Department and was accepted into the academy on January 1st of 2016. August 1st, 2015, July 30th or 31st, George was having some issues. We knew that he was sleep deprived. We knew that his whole attitude had changed. He was angry. He was going through problems with his girlfriend. And, it was just a whole host of things the night before. So he went to a crisis care center, and the least qualified crisis care person had seen him and released him with the permission of the person who makes protocol there within 15 minutes. And he already verbally had stated his intentions on what he was going to do to the police officer who found him and knew him at the bar, all the way to the rescue squad, his rescue squad that took him to the hospital. He told them his intentions. And when he got to the crisis care center, he told the people at the hospital who evaluate you before you go to the crisis care center. Well, like I said, 15 minutes into it, the least qualified crisis care worker, the only one who was there at the time, and released him with the permission of the head psychiatrist there over the phone. And the head psychiatrist didn't even know who he was talking to,
Mm,
uh, who the lady was. My wife had met up with them down at the Plate, Delaware River, and it's a place where they launch boats and they have chairs and everything else where you could sit and relax. And he found that place to be peaceful. But when she had located him, he was extremely angry. She said, I couldn't even recognize him. His emotions and his mental status and everything else. He just didn't want to hear nothing. He was just angry. So we called his best friend, and he came down, and he said that he was going to go over his best friend's house for the night and just cool down and go back to work in the morning. Well, the next morning I came, and I'm getting up for doing my daily routine. I'm having my coffee, I'm letting my dogs out, I have my portable on, and I'm listening to the radio. And I know that all this went on last night with Georgie. Um, and I heard over my portable come across that there was a pedestrian struck at 10:30 in the morning on August 1st, and by a train on the Northeast Corridor. And come to find out, I called down after because I knew Georgie was going through some problems, and listening to the call, there was no chance of it was just a quick call from the squad that had the coroner come down. I was listening to this whole thing. And I called down to the scene, some of my friends on the rescue squad, and they confirmed it was my son.
mm.
So that's how I had found out, and I heard it. I heard the whole call on my portable. Um, I just want to say that uh, we all, as we all know, there's not just one contributing factor to somebody who wants to commit suicide. There's several contributing factors, and I think in Georgie's case, it was relationship issues. I think it was lack of sleep, and which is really important for me. Sleep deprivation. I mean, it's a killer. I mean, we need to get our rest, and I think just some of them issues were just contributing factors. That plus he was bullied um, from his rescue squad because he was taking his paramedic test, and they put a bet out on him whether he was going to pass or fail.
Mm,
Excuse me. So I think they were all contributing factors, and as the day went on, we had guests come over, and I never went down to the scene because he did it my local, and the train stopped it behind his firehouse in his local. We ran with
okay.
fire departments. So, yeah, so, it was just shocking. It's just a moment of disbelief. So,
Yeah. No, no. And there's a lot. There's a lot there to even for those that didn't have to live this, to unpack. So, um, I mean, I think this is exactly why I really kind of wanted to get you on it, so you can give the listeners and the followers to see exactly how to kind of pull through it. So I mean, this all kind of is unraveled. Obviously, the loss of a child is something that is unimaginable for any parent. What what kind of was what helped you pull through everything, and all of the couple of line of duties that you were indirectly but sort of connected to, as far as being on scene and stuff like that. How how did you manage to be able, what was your light at the end of that dark tunnel, so to speak, that really kind of pulled you through?
well, I think I had the mentality when I had the line of duty deaths of being granted. And even though I known these gentlemen, I felt the pain because I was there. I seen it.
Hmm.
How and I think that I compartmentalized a lot of that line of duty deaths uh, at the time because that's the only thing I knew. That's the
Mhm.
that was the only talk on the street on how to deal with things. It was either suck it up or get out, either one of the two. When it came to Georgie, the story just don't really end there for me. Um, a year later, his partner from the rescue squad had taken his own life via GSW, and
Mm.
he was a friend of the family as well. I mean, his uncle is the one that got me into the fire service. So they it was said that his PTSD was worse than the military's, and he was offered vacation time, and he was offered the opportunity to go get seek the help that he needed. And he was stuck with that mentality, you know,
Mm.
that suck it up culture. And then, on September 13th, the following year, um, my son Josh intentionally drug overdosed because, and I never really know how to say this properly because I don't think that anybody really knows how to handle a loss. I mean,
Mm.
it's different for everybody. People grieve different. My son Josh succumbed to a intentional drug overdose, and when me and his mother found him in a motel room, his room was set up with Georgie's obituary, his
Mm.
wallet, his picture. So our attorney and ourselves all really agreed that it was intentional.
Yep.
And
No,
so,
for sure.
I mean, I guess it took a toll on my whole family. Actually, it really tore apart my whole family. My third oldest son, he had a nervous breakdown over all this loss, losing his brothers.
Mm.
So what I had to do is I thought I was granted. I mean, listen, I started noticing I was suffering burnout before my sons had passed away because I went on a fatal juvenile car accident where a car hit him, and I really didn't want to go up and help retrieve and put him in a body bag and get him home to where he needs to be.
Mhm.
Um, I was trying to avoid that. And that's when I realized that you know it, it's starting to all these calls I've seen and all the death and destruction that I've seen has caught up with me, and still being from the suck it up mentality. PTSD was never really talked about back in 2015 at all. You know,
Mm.
I never heard of it, and, when I seen Georgie in the hospital, I think one of my biggest regrets is that, you know, I I didn't have that knowledge, that knowledge about mental health that I really probably would have helped me, it's a what if? Uh,
Sure.
Probably could have had me better understand of what he's going through, and I could have said things a lot different to him instead of saying what I did to him, and I live with that regret. But
Mm.
to move forward, what I had to do is I had to refine purpose again because I lost all purpose in life. I mean,
Mhm.
it doesn't matter to me no more. I've been my regular job, I was a union heavy equipment operate engineer. I retired from there. I spent just as much time there as I did with the fire service. And when my knees got bad, I retired from there. And I really had no place to turn. And I had to try to understand why my son would do this. And that's when I really started digging deep in the mental health, especially in first responders and firefighters. And it answered a lot of questions for me that we suffer from the same symptoms those in the military do. And that correlation between both of them made me realize that, yeah, I mean, although they perform a different type of function, and we perform a different type of function, that we still see the worst that humanity has to offer.
Mm.
And so going that far, I started looking around for better understanding. I was reading, I was taking seminars, I was, talking to people. I had visits from Jeff Dill, who has a nice program. I can't remember the name of his program off the top of my head, but if you look up his name, you can find out what his program is. And then I looked into the Code Green campaign, And the Code Green campaign provides vetted services all around the country for first responders who need help. But in the meantime, I was taking classes to become a peer-to-peer support person so I could help other firefighters try to avoid taking their life over, things that we could prevent, hopefully. And in that process, it gave me better understanding. We changed laws in Pennsylvania. I knew a couple senators, and my wife was in the public eye as a politician, and we changed some laws in Pennsylvania that where if you report that you're in crisis, that you can't be punished. I mean, they can't give you time off. You don't lose your job, you know,
Mm,
but they have to give you help. And we also created a Bucks County hotline for first responders who are in crisis, and it's been pretty active the way I understand. So, I
that's
mean,
awesome.
out of tragedy, you had to I had to try to find purpose, and I didn't want my son to die in vain. So we went to work on that, and I trained and became a peer-to-peer support person for first responders, and not patting myself on the back, but what brings me a little bit of comfort is that I've talked at least 25 people out of bad situations, and that the loss that I feel, I mean, it's absolutely horrible, but to continue to save a life in its different setting is worth it for me. It keeps me going, keeps me motivated.
I love it. It is it's definitely a very, very touching story to say the least. I don't think people can fathom how much loss that you've had to endure in your family and everybody, and the ability to come out on the other end of it. While you might have thought you are tough as granite in some aspects, and it's the
Uh,
ability to be tenacious. I
I would
get you.
I would like to believe that, and what I would like to believe is that there's a lot of people out there who are like me. I mean, my will has been tested, my
Mm.
faith has been tested, my sanity has been tested,
Oh, sure.
but I mean, you what other choice do you have than the best thing I guess you can get back under these circumstances is to help others who are going through the same thing, because that's like
Mm,
last call. Georgie's death was my last call to, physically, but mentally now I could help other people in a different form, and I could talk them out of doing something that they can get help for, because
mm.
tomorrow is always another day, and it's there's help out there. I just need these people to know that, and it's okay. It's okay to say, "Hey, look, I need help." I mean, because if you don't, PTSD and CP CP CPTSD is a game changer. It'll take your life. Sleep deprivation will take your life.
Mm.
I
Yeah.
mean, 'cause your mind plays funny games on you and tells you things that are not true, and, these are big talking points for me, but, when you go get help, there's plenty of places now since this has come to light since 2015, and not only because of my son, but in my state, it's become that way because of my son, but I've noticed throughout the fire service industry, first responder field, is that it's becoming big talk. And still, I don't believe that we're at the point that where people are taking this as serious as they should. I mean, because it's like
Mm,
a pancake effect, right? So if I started in '84 and I seen all this tragedy and it keeps piling up and keeps piling up like a pancake, and then eventually it just gets too heavy for you because them calls that you've seen that are very tragic, they stick with you. They don't go away.
mm.
There's calls that will go away, but there's them calls that will live with you for a lifetime. And, it's better to address them. And it doesn't make you less of a man or a woman, but you know what? I thought that my best way to handle this was head on, face first. I
Yeah.
don't drink, I don't do anything to self-medicate. I had to handle this head on, and that's what got me through it.
And that's I think honestly that's the It's good to be stubborn and bullheaded sometimes, and I think that's probably what kind of help push you through this. So for the firefighters that are listening who feel that they might be at a breaking point, what is the first step they can take to get help?
I think the first step is if you're a paid department, you usually have human resources departments and or go to your chief or somebody who you can confide in. Uh,
Mm,
because when you talk about mental health, the interaction between you and that person should be confidential, and it shouldn't be going throughout the whole station. I mean, this is a big thing about mental health, and this is what's going to help crush the stigma is the confidentiality of your
mhm,
crisis. I mean, because other people still, even in the department today, stigmatize it that where you're just weak. You weren't built for this. Well, that's bullshit. I call bullshit on that. And, you go to your chief and tell him, look, I'm going through some things about this call. Debriefing after a call. I had a call, like I was saying, that call I felt like I was burned out on when we get back to the station. Chief said, okay, good job. Everybody go home. And I said, wait a minute. If it's bothering me, it's
mhm,
going to bother somebody else. A seasoned guy like me, it's going to bother somebody else down the road.
sure.
And I said, "Listen, guys, if you're having trouble with this call, reach out to one of us." And I was at the time at that department, I was an officer. And, I just told him, I said, come out and come talk to us in confidentiality. We'll get you all the help you need. And that was never said before after a call, just to have a quick debriefing or whatever the case may be.
Right.
It's like, okay, guys, have a good night. Thank you. Good job. So, go see your officer or somebody you could trust, even if it's a friend. It don't have to be in an agency. If you can trust somebody with your information and you just can't do it yourself, use somebody who you trust and care about to work with to get you that help you need. But you have to
Mm,
talk about it. It's not going to go away. It's just not. It's going to get worse as the years go by. And I remember every tragedy that sticks with me. I remember a lot of calls that were just awful and tragic, and I'm 59 years old, and they're not going away, but I got coping
mm,
skills now, and I know how to
mhm,
cope with it. So, and I have bad days, and I have good
mhm.
days. I mean, you're not guaranteed nothing. Every day could be a new day for everybody, but, I'm
Yeah.
still here, and I wanted to give up.
I love your outlook. And to that, what is probably one of your most rewarding parts of being on a peer support group?
I think one of my just to talk to somebody the next day who's in crisis, because you know, you're never guaranteed nothing really in life.
Mm,
And somebody might tell you something and they might put their trust in you. But it's like my lawyer had said to me about Georgie, and the gray area for me is that not my son would never do that. But unfortunately, when people have intentions on taking their life, no matter who they are or where they are, they're going to do it. And that's the sad truth and
mm,
reality of this whole situation. And when I get to talk to the person the next day and they say to me, hey, you know what? You, uh, you really made a lot of sense last night. And thank you a lot. I even had a girl put a tattoo on there, on her arm that I told her, I said one day at a time, and she had a tattoo on her arm.
oh, that's awesome.
Well, I mean, it's just that if I could just do right and keep somebody alive and honor my son's memory, I'm doing this for my son and for the first responder field and the love I have for this whole job. Like, there was nothing more that meant anything to me. It was work, it was family, and it was Firehouse, and I just didn't play the part as a volunteer. I lived it. I mean, I would have bunk
Mm,
beds, and I would be there for every training, and I'd be there for every call because I was right around the corner. I mean, I made it my lifestyle.
yeah.
So, I mean, I know as volunteers, we get a bad rap sometimes, but we have guys who are committed like that, like paid guys, you know? But we won't
The,
go to
the,
that.
the only reason that the volunteers get a bad rap is because they show more passion than the guys who collect a paycheck. And sometimes they can outwork some of the guys who are on payroll because I'll use our neck of the woods, and I'm sure you guys have the situation down there, but we have a lot of non-hydrant areas. So we have to actually draft from a static source, and nothing is more rewarding than to see some city guys who think that they absolutely know everything, but can't figure out how to get water out of that pond. So it is kind of rewarding for me to be honest with you.
Yeah. We
No, so I want to kind of touch on the on your burnout because I think a lot of firefighters feel burnout. Do you think it's sort of natural? I mean, did you ever really address it individually, or was timing sort of a little skewed because with your sons losing their lives, and did it kind of naturally work its way out, or did you sort of find a different way to address just the burnout?
Well, burnout started, uh, before my sons died,
Mm,
and, I needed to change my routine because I was all in. I bought
yep,
all in on the fire service. I was getting up 3 o'clock in the morning, driving the truck or riding the radio seat or whatever the case may be. But I had to realize that, I got younger members, I got younger officers, and I don't need to get up for an alarm system call. I mean, I get up and go,
sure,
but I
yeah,
think
yeah,
there's times where I could just say, "You know what? They got a bunk in crew. There's no sense of me getting out of bed 3 o'clock in the morning. Why they go?" And I'll listen to the radio, and if it's something, which usually it's just smells and bells, um, I would have to lighten up my game a little bit. And,
mm,
let's be honest, here's my opinion at 59. This is really a young man's game.
hmm,
As you get older, and become the senior man, or you move up into an officer role because of you using more of your knowledge than you are your physical strength. Um, sometimes you have to make that transition. I mean, there's older guys who still ride that are still in the jump seat, and they're still fighting the fire just like everybody else. Everybody's got to know their capabilities and their limitations. And as much hard work I put in and blew my knees out, I knew it was time, you know?
mm.
So,
Yeah, I think one of the biggest, and I think everybody experiences burnout in some way, shape, or form, whether it be, um, they just, stressful week and they need time off, or it can be cumulative. And sometimes I push a lot on burnout because I feel burnout's the first step, in my opinion, to really getting, a cumulative post-traumatic type stuff because it's almost like the gateway drug, if you want to think of it that way, that by getting burned out, you're not addressing it. And so I mean, it's something that I always have been intrigued by because I think that it sneaks up on us. All of a sudden we're like, why are we grumpy? And sometimes it's nice when our spouses can really sort of tell too, like, hey man, like you seem a little off, type stuff like that.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
um, but yeah,
I
so
I think that when you realize what burnout, you realize that these are things you're leading your crew in to do all the time.
mm,
You're
yep,
with them all the time. But when you start feeling that, I just really don't want to see this today, and I'm going to delegate the responsibility to the next slower officer down or next senior firefighter or whoever.
mm,
I mean, because I'm not a dictator and I'm not a control freak. I'm a firm believer that you should learn everything you need to know about the fire service, and you know that you can learn because it's for volunteers. We do it for free, so
hmm,
it's going to save your ass. And I'm not going to get in back and forth with the paid versus volunteer because
sure,
really it's all it is a paycheck. It's not. I know volunteer firefighters who are professionals, just as professional as the paid guy. They just tag that name along with a paycheck.
sure, exactly.
Well, I got a lot of guys who are really awesome firefighters and who really live this lifestyle, and, it's just the way it is around here. But, yeah,
Mm,
burnout, I mean, once you start to notice it, that's when you start to realize that, something's probably have to change. You might have to take a step back and, you train your younger guys to move up and take your position, and, it's time to play a different role somewhere.
mm. No, I love it. What is one of the reasons you think firefighters have a really hard time admitting that they're struggling?
Well, I think it's still today in 2025, and, they were struggling back in 2015 and way before then, with the military, they called it shell shock. Uh,
Mm,
we never really, combined or paralleled the 2 between the military and the fire service, that it was all a tragedy that we see. Um, I think the stigma is the big thing. I think we have to step up as professionals and as firefighters and, s you know, save those who save others. I
mm,
mean, and that's how I feel about it. I mean, you know, at one time, I would never sit here and tell you that I suffered from burnout because I was too proud, but
sure.
is it a stigma? And that's the whole thing, is the stigma. I think that when people can realize that it's okay to be emotional and let your feelings out and have empathy, I mean,
Mm,
you know, more than anything else, I think we lose that empathy when, during our course of our careers, and I seen that empathy fatigue on, overdose victims when they had the Narcan people,
yeah,
even
yeah.
the same people 3 or 4 times a day, and they'd run 100 calls a day. And when I would go to a overdose, I could see it in the paramedics that they were just burned out, plain and simple. But I still had empathy for these people. It's like, "Tell me your
Yeah.
name," and, and I'm calling them and I'm giving them, sternum rubs and everything else, and the paramedics asked me, "Hey, George, you know this guy?" I said, "No, but it's somebody's kid, it's somebody's father or somebody's mother,"
Mhm.
We can't lose
Yeah.
that. But, yeah, I think stigma has a lot is the key number 1, answer to that problem.
Yeah, no, I agree. Um, so 4 of your sons are now volunteers. What is it like watching them walk the same path that you did? Especially kinda knowing the risks and the rewards that go with it.
Well, we all know the risk and rewards, and we accepted that as parents, me and his mother. My second oldest son served as a battalion chief in his department. I had the opportunity to fight fire with him and because it was a different
Mm,
department, my same town.
yep.
My, third oldest, he's now captain of the fire department that I ran with, um, and I had the opportunity to fight fire with all my sons, and I think that it's just so fulfilling because my house was like the firehouse. Like, every Sunday, I'd
Mm.
together and watch football. The great part about it is my wife would cook, all my kids would come over, and
Mhm.
the firehouse dinner table because, my son Georgie, he was, like, being paid over in New Jersey and, being involved as heavily as he was in some of the calls that my other son's been on, I brung the old school firefighter to the table, and they would
I
bring
like it.
new techniques to the table, so it kept us a perfectly balanced type, firefighter, mentality, so it was great. I mean,
Mm,
my at least I could say this, I had a terrible loss. I go to therapy. I've been in therapy, for the last 10 years. It's been 10 years
mhm.
since my son passed away and 8 years since my other son passed away. But you know what? I can go out of this world knowing that I had the honor and privilege of fighting fires with my sons, and not many people
Ye
could say that.
No, I was just gonna say you are able to write down something that a lot of people can't. I, um, I do have one son. He is, 16. Unfortunately, his mother and I divorced when they were young, when, he was younger. So he lives in a different area of the state. And he had, for a while, he had kind of ventured down the idea of being a junior firefighter. But then, so the likelihood of him and I ever fighting a fire is slim to none because he's not even active in the fire service now at his age. He's more in love with hockey than I think he is with his parents. But that's how that age is now.
Right,
So,
right.
but yeah, it's anybody that has that, I eternally admirable. I love it. I love it.
Best part about it is not only am I their father, but I'm their senior officer. So if I can't get you by the officer way, I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm your father.
Yeah, don't make me have to switch my hats. Oh my gosh, I love it. So how do you balance the pride of seeing your sons in the fire service with some of the fear that may come knowing the toll that it comes. Is this kind of a thought that crossed your mind, or or have I just now placed this in your mind?
You know, I've resigned myself to the fact long time ago is that I'm at ease with the fact that we live and we're gonna die someday. And
Yep.
if I had to die, if I had a choice, it would probably be somewhere on the fire ground, but I don't have that
Mm,
choice. That's only in somebody else in a higher authority than me's
sure.
thing. But, you know, I want my kids to do what makes them happy. And to watch them progress through the fire department makes me happy. And they're not bottom feeders, they're not slugs, they're very aggressive young
Good.
firefighters who always training every 2 nights a week, and, you know, they take this job as serious as me, and, you know, I wouldn't have it any other way.
I love it. I love it. They that's what I love to hear. They're carrying the name just like their old man did. So last question, and I appreciate everything you've done. I know that this is it's never easy to talk about, but I can tell you that there is somebody who listens to the show, who follows the platforms that really will benefit from hearing this. And even if it means that, if they have adult grown children and they're like, I haven't talked to them in a couple of days, and they just make that phone call to say hi, then you've done your job, and you've helped carry your son's honor on. So know that for sure.
And I'm so committed
Um,
that I'm even willing to go out on the line and even give you my phone number in case anybody has any questions for me personally. If you wanna reach out to me, my name's George Redner, and my phone number is 215-285-3232. You can call me 24/7, and we can walk this journey together.
I love it. George is also on TikTok as well. Heavy George, correct? Is that what it is on
Yeah,
TikTok?
yeah.
If I remember right.
Well, call me
Um,
because I was skinny one time, and as I got older, I put a little weight on.
hey, there's nothing wrong with that. I highly recommend everybody hit him up on TikTok. Are you on Instagram or any other platforms like that?
Instagram. I deleted Facebook because, unfortunately, I can't mentally and even social
Yes.
media is tough for me. But I try to
It
find
yes.
a way to inform some of the people who I know and stay in some circles.
It can be, honestly, because I feel I think the coolest thing that I saw the other day, a really good friend of mine shared a meme, and it said, what was the phrase? Something to the effect of, don't let the balls that you have when you type on your keyboard get your real teeth kicked in, or something like that. So, and it's so true.
Yeah.
um no, I again, thank you, George. I appreciate your time, especially your patience trying to fight through this. um if there's anything from today's conversation that you hope sticks with the listener, if they can take only one thing home with them today, what from today's conversation do you hope that it is?
I just hope, and I really mean this after everything I've been through, I just hope that you reach out. I hope that you make that first step. I'm getting a little emotional about this because
Yeah.
I want you to talk to somebody. There's somebody there who can work with you and walk this journey with you. Is it gonna be easy? It might not be, but the first step's always important. Um, you know, it it's just we gotta break the stigma. We gotta say, "Hey, look, we're not weak, we're not soft, we're human." And that's what's important. And we feel emotions and pains just like everybody else, but we're so trained to keep it in that it's a killer. It turns into a killer. And
Mm.
please reach out and prevent what I had to go through. I don't want to see nobody go through what I went through. Yeah.
Folks, I could not have said it better than George did himself. If there's anything from today's episode that sticks with you, please like and share. Smash those follow and share buttons if you can, because it's how we get the passionate leader to spread its mission. Um, if there's something hit today and hit home, don't just sit on it, and share it. If there is somebody that you know that can benefit from hearing from this episode, from hearing George's story, from hearing how he came back from the absolute bottom of the world to get back to where he is to help other people, please share it and act on it. Be the kind of leader someone else is praying for. And no matter what comes your way, remember this: lead with passion, serve with humility, and leave no room for bottom feeders. Until next time, guys, stay safe. And as always, if you need help, George dropped his number. I'm going to give you my email address. It's jp at the passionate leader. If you need to talk to me anytime, day or night, 603-554-7653. There is always somebody out there that is willing to hear you. I'm sure, guys, I can probably speak for George when I say this. We would much rather get your phone call than have to sit and listen to your eulogy. Until next time, stay safe.